Hello, hello.
Hello, good evening.
I like that setup, Chip. I like it so I can see all your CDs.
It's it's a really it's a when we moved into this house, they built out the family room, they extended it, and this is like the little room that kind of holds the family room up. It's a terrible, awful junk room, but it had all these built-in shelves that I could put CDs on, so I'll take it.
Nice.
How many CDs do you think you have?
So they take up a lot of room, and I don't know if you can tell, like they're starting to bend the shelves a little bit.
Yep.
Oh
So
yeah.
I started taking them out of the cases and putting just the jacket into a like a Tupperware, not a Tupperware, but like a plastic thing. So I mean, these are the ones I haven't gotten to yet. So a couple thousand probably.
You have them all cataloged on like Discogs or something? Nope.
Nope.
Dang. I probably got maybe less than 1,000, I would think.
How does the audio sound okay? I have a headset with a microphone too. That if the microphone's better on that.
I think you sound
You're-
good.
Yeah, you
Okay.
sound fine.
Okay.
I see we have Brian and Justin.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how this thing works.
Um,
There we
there
go.
we go.
Hey,
How's it going?
Hello.
good. How are you? Okay, so I have to say this is my first Zoom call ever.
You clearly don't work in a corporate office.
No. So I heard Chip. Hey Chip.
Hey.
I heard him talking about headphones. Do I need headphones for this?
No, you sound great.
And there's no feeding back on your end or anything?
Nope.
Nope.
Sounds good.
Okay.
There's Justin.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How
Hey,
you doing?
Justin.
Good.
Justin, is this your first Zoom call as well?
No, I've been on many Zoom calls over the last 7 months, unfortunately.
Okay.
Speaker okay on this?
You sound fine.
Okay, great.
Let me just get my my notes up here. So we're just waiting for Kevin.
Yeah. Kevin, where are you? Maybe I should text him, make sure he didn't fall asleep. He works nights, and tonight was his night off, so I don't know what he had planned.
Gotcha.
I know that he was planning on this. So let's see. He's probably trying to figure it out. I don't think he's ever done a Zoom call either. And I sent the link to Wes just in case he had a change of heart and he wanted to pop in.
Be right back.
So yeah, no bunny yet. We aren't
No
planning
bunny.
to have any bunny. No.
Can always hope. Can always wish.
How have you been, Chip?
All right.
Good.
Yeah.
Listen to anything lately that I should pay attention to?
Listening to stuff every day. Let's see. It becomes
There he
too
is.
with Spotify.
Yeah.
Different stuff all the time.
Are you always like looking for new stuff, or you just kind of pick up things that other people suggest?
Both, anything and everything.
Yeah.
It's really bad. I look at new release Fridays now, not Tuesdays, and it's like a kid in a candy store, right? Like I just go down my list and I'm like, I'm gonna listen to. I'm not gonna buy anything. I'm gonna listen to everything.
Right.
And so yeah, every Friday I'm loading a playlist and listening to stuff. Let's see. I have a really weak spot for nothing to me is a guilty pleasure, but this band called Neon Coven,
Neon Coven.
which is
Hello?
Hello?
Hey, it's me, Kevin. How come I can't see myself? Can you
Uh,
guys see me?
There's like a little thing that you need to click on. There's like in the top right corner, there's like 3 dots,
Okay.
and you have to allow video.
Okay. Don't
There
be
he
scared
is.
of my hair, guys.
Hey, Kev.
Hey.
Neon Coven.
So it's guilty pleasure in the way that like Kill Hannah is a guilty pleasure. It's
Okay.
these dudes that played in like 4th generation hair metal bands, like the current LA Guns guitar player
Oh.
who has no history of the 80s, but they have a very like Depeche Mode, Duran Duran, synth pop 80s sound. That's a little bit of a guilty pleasure for me. It's
I like synth pop.
yeah, very, like I said, Duran Duran, Cure,
Yeah.
Depeche Mode, that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Chip, there are no guilty pleasures anymore.
No,
We're too
nothing's
old for that.
guilty.
It's all out there.
Yeah,
It's all allowed. We got limited time, Chip.
yes.
We got to just enjoy what we enjoy.
Exactly. We're running out of time. Just listen to
I did want to share before we got started. Chip, do you have this? Do you have the 10-inch triple
No.
of Broadcaster?
No,
You don't?
You
Chip.
don't?
Chip.
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 I know.
You need to send me your address. I've got one for you.
Do you really?
Yes.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Chip, I found that at Used Kids in town.
My brother found a copy at in Cleveland at whatever the cool record store in Cleveland is now. One in Lakewood, my mind's eye. Yeah, people keep running across them. I've never seen one in the wild.
Wow. Every time I see one, I buy one. I was actually at A1 Records in New York City, and they had 3 unopened copies.
Really?
And I told the guy I was in the band, and he was like, "Really? Okay, well, maybe I should raise the price." And I was like, "No, I was actually going to ask you for a discount because he wanted $10 a piece for them. He ended up giving it to me for 7 a piece.
Wow.
So I took them all.
I do have this.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
Nice.
All right. Well, since we're all here, we should get started. Jay and I will do a count in and do a little intro, and then we'll just start getting into it. And we're expecting John around the bottom of the hour. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll text him as soon as we're ready for him. He
Okay.
said he might have been partying a little bit because he's got a thing going on, but he said he'll figure out what to talk about for 5 or 10 minutes.
With other people?
Yeah, he's got family and stuff,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and they're having a little shindig, I guess.
That's completely fine. I mean, who knows how much longer we have
Yeah, right.
to do those things. And then Tank Boy might stop by at some point. I got the participants list up, so if he stops by and hops in, I'll add him to the call. It's a nice thing
Okay.
about being the host. I can see anybody who's trying to hop in and either reject or accept. It's very
Yeah.
powerful. But thanks, guys. This is gonna be awesome. So I'm gonna count us in. You ready, Jay?
Let's do it.
All right. And 3, 2, 1. Jay, we're back again. Jay, we're back again with another episode. Thanks to our Dig Me Out Union on Patreon. You can help us make the next episode happen by joining us at dmounion.com or digmeoutunion.com. Speaking of the union, Jay, we've had a few new members join. Mr. Mike Androff, he joined us recently, and also Carl F. at the new tier. Jay, can you explain this new magical tier that we've created? Because I didn't even know it existed. You just made it happen.
Oh, it's not a new tier. You can instead of paying us per month to be a member, you can just pay in advance. So if you hate that annoying like $5 coming out a month, you can just get it all out of the way up front, and then Tim can figure
Nice.
out how to schedule your review.
Yes, thank you for making it harder on me. I appreciate that.
Sorry about that. You're a smart guy. You'll figure it out.
I'll do the math. It's going to take a while, but so for this particular episode, Jay, we have reached back into the depths of Dig Me Out, going back to season 1.
My
The almost unlistenable, recorded via AIM Instant Messenger or AOL Messenger. I don't know how they were done. It was 10 years
Yeah.
ago. It was such a different world back then. And we used to do episodes in 10 minutes, believe it or not. Now we do them in 10 times that length,
Yeah.
you know, roughly. So on episode 5, this is episode 513. On episode 5, Mr. Chip Midnight, he stopped by and we talked about an album. Chip, can you share what that record was?
That record was Triple Fast Action's Broadcaster. That was a
Yes.
10 years ago.
That was
Right.
10 years ago. That's where the
2011.
Chip Midnight Dig Me Out relationship started, was on that. Now, we knew Chip before that, but that's where, and Chip has been a part of the podcast ever since then, joining us for various interviews and episodes and roundtables and whatnot. We come back to the second record by Triple Fast Action,
It only took us 10 years
508
to get there.
episodes later.
Did you guys go back and listen to that episode?
No, I don't listen to any old episodes. It's too painful.
That's painful.
I listened to it yesterday to make sure that I don't repeat stories. And we talked about the second Triple Fast record. And you guys said something like, yeah, we'll get to that in about 5,000 episodes from now. So you, 5,000 episodes. You got there
We
early.
knew.
So
We knew.
Yeah.
So we're ahead of schedule. That's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, rarely do we get to a second record by a band. I think we've only had it happen 4 or 5 times in the 500 episodes. So I'm glad we're getting to do this. But if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And we're going to get a bunch of people on to talk about the record. So joining us, I don't know from what parts of the country, but we're all in Zoom land, so it doesn't really matter. Joining us, I'm going to go around my squares here that I'm looking at. Mr. Brian St. Clair, welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is
What
exciting.
what part of the country are you in? So I know your time zone.
I'm in Michigan. I'm outside of Detroit, about 45 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then if I go to this, if I feel like this is Hollywood Squares. If I go to bottom right square for me, it's Kevin. I don't know how to pronounce your last name because I've only read it. What's the correct pronunciation?
It's pronounced Tihista. It sounds just like Fiesta.
There you go. I should have Googled that before, but I do as little pre-work as possible for this. I also have an 8-year-old, so that kind of takes away all my free time. But welcome to the show, Kevin.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
And then also joining us for me is bottom left. We have no center square here, so maybe that will be filled later in the show. Mr. Justin Wexler, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I am in Chicago, appropriately.
Perfect. Kevin, where are you at? I forgot to ask.
I'm in Downers Grove, which is just right outside of Chicago.
Okay. So Justin, you mentioned to us, you're a part of our Patreon community.
Yeah, I think about 2 years. Yeah,
And
I've
so
been
you know
for a while.
the chaos that goes on at the Patreon community with regards to all the records that get suggested.
Sure, yeah.
Every month.
I found myself voting for ones against ones that I suggested.
I love that.
Yeah, it does sometimes present a conundrum when you suggested a record and somebody else suggested one. You go, oh, that's actually a really good idea. Because every month at Patreon we have 8 or 9 records that are suggested via our website. You can just throw them into the hopper via that website, digmeoutpodcast.com, and our patrons vote on them. On occasion, rarely, like twice a year, Jay and I say, hey, we've got a free episode. We can do whatever we want with this episode. And so we chose this particular episode as one of our free spots to take a suggestion that you had, Justin. We're going to revisit the second Triple Fast Action album, Cattlemen Don't. So here's the question that's been burning in my mind. What is the don't? Cattlemen Don't.
Kevin.
What does that mean? Where's that title come from?
I wish I knew. I don't think we've ever known what Cattlemen Don't means.
Is this a Meatloaf situation? Like I would do anything for love, but I won't do that, and you don't know what that is?
Yes.
Okay. So let's see. This episode is coming out. What was it? The Tuesday. We have Tuesday the 10th. So let me think about this. Justin, is the news out now?
It will be by the time this airs for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not
So
yet.
all right. So this will nobody will know about this before. Can you explain what the special reason? This isn't just an album review. We're also going to be talking about something else. Can you share with our audience the special occasion that this episode is wrapped around?
Sure. Yeah. I thought, I reached out about this because we're doing a first time ever vinyl reissue of Cattlemen Don't. 23 years later, finally getting it out on vinyl. I know the 90s were not a great time for vinyl releases. I run a label called 4GN Records out of Chicago since 2000, so almost the 90s. And I reached out. I know Triple Fast Action had posted about it on their socials. They were, thinking about doing it, and I reached out, and they were excited about doing it. And we figured it out and made it happen. Took some time, but digging through tapes and finding all sorts of fun bonus stuff to add in, and buried in tapes. You guys were very prolific.
Are we live? Like, if we just talk, can you hear us, or do we need to?
Oh yeah, we're not. This isn't going live.
Yeah.
We're recording it, and then this will actually be out on the 10th of November.
Well, seeing as I've never done a Zoom call before, I wasn't sure if you have to like punch me in, kind of like.
Oh no! You can just talk over or under or whatever.
All right. So yeah, we had lots and lots of material, and as soon as we started talking about this, and I posted something on the Triple Fast Action Instagram page, and it was one of those things. As soon as Justin jumped in and contacted us, it was I knew that it was the right place, only because he was the only one that seemed to care.
I've been doing that for a long time. Putting out stuff that nobody cares about. Not that nobody cares. I think a lot of people will be excited about this. That's one of the things I do. I only put stuff out that I really like, much to my wallet's displeasure. But I wanted to get this out there, and I think it's an important album, and I think it's something that people should be able to have on vinyl and have a cool deluxe version of, and get a bunch of bonus songs. And as a fan of the band, I wanted to see it happen, and I figured this was the best way.
I'm curious in the kind of the nuts and bolts of like, how do you put something like this together? Like, are you just imagine going through tapes, and like, how do you get the artwork prepped for vinyl, and like, just what's the top line of like how much effort goes into doing something like this?
This one's been pretty considerable. We had to track down tapes, we had to track down masters, and sort of just figuring out what we want to put on the record. Obviously there's so much, but you only have so much space. Prepping the art, we have Mark Skillicorn helping us out with that. He's excellent Chicago artist who's done a bunch of stuff for you guys in the past. It's a long process, unfortunately, but we're getting there, and so it's getting pressed soon, and we'll have it in January. Yeah, a lot of so the original art obviously is very small because when it was created for CDs. People don't tend to keep those photographs and those design elements around very long, especially stuff from the 90s. And there's been a lot of reissues. Smoking Popes did one. Archers of Loaf had a bunch of reissues where they sort of had to update the art just because the originals didn't exist in a high enough quality. So we're sort of doing something a little bit different, but fitting the same theme. So I think it'll be really cool. I think people will be excited to see it.
And then does everything need to get remastered?
Yeah. We had Carl Saff in Chicago kind of tweak it for vinyl. Obviously, the original master is great. Red Calby's a legendary mastering engineer. We didn't want to mess with the stuff that he had already done. But yeah, we had Carl kind of tweak a little bit for vinyl and master all the unreleased stuff.
So when you guys were thinking about this, how far back does that go in terms of, Brian, you mentioned about saying something on Instagram about wanting to do this. Is this been something that you've been thinking about for a while, or was this something that you came upon more recently with regards? I know that, there's been a resurgence of vinyl in the last couple years. When did this idea sort of form for you?
Well, for me personally, the idea came about probably 3-4 years ago. And, it was one of those things where the previous record label, Deep Elm, a long time ago, they stopped working with tangible product. Everything's online. That was the only way you could get it. A lot of streaming, downloads, that's about it. So, I personally was looking for extra copies of Cattlemen Don't, and I found that I couldn't get one for under like 25, $30, which I'm not going to pay. Then I went to Amazon and they do this. And I found out later that the copy I got was ripped. It wasn't even an actual copy. They were selling them for like, I think 12 or $15. And it came with artwork and everything. The artwork was a little different. There was like this weird black border on it, but it skipped in 2 songs. So what I did was I sent it back to Amazon, said that it skipped. So they sent me back a brand new one. It skipped in the same 2 spots. So I realized the copy they had that they were burning from was messed up. And that really pissed me off, thinking that people are buying this and not realizing that this is what they have to settle for. So I was originally talking to a bunch of friends that ran record labels, like, how do you do this yourself? Like if we wanted to do like a Kickstarter, and it just seemed like a big mess and way too much for me to tackle. So then, fast forward, and vinyl, everybody I know that had old records out were doing reissues, especially Local H, a band I was in for 14 years. And Scott started doing vinyl reissues of his old records before I even joined the band. And so then I was like, oh yeah, so it's just a matter of finding someone that will be able to figure out, like actually has all the tools to actually make a vinyl record happen. Because I, again, wouldn't know where to begin with that. So here we are, a couple years, 3 years later. And, me and Kevin and Wes have been talking a lot about this back and forth for what, Kevin, has it been a year since we started talking about
About
this?
a year, yeah.
And so I brought those guys in and I was like, I need help deciding this stuff, figuring out who do we know. And, all the people I knew had all their money wrapped into so many other projects, and they couldn't just, and plus the other problem is we aren't really a band anymore. So people don't want to necessarily put all this effort into a record that they aren't going to go out and support, as far as live shows, which made it really difficult on that end. So we realized that we're going to have to do more of a special release where, and it's limited too. This isn't something that's going to be in press for a real long time. It's like a one pressing thing, right, Justin? It's one pressing, and then
that's the plan for now. Yeah.
And so it is limited, and it's been fun figuring out all this stuff. It's been fun listening to all these old songs, and honestly, there's stuff that we unearthed that we don't even remember doing. There was so much material, and I got a hold of all these DAT tapes from our old manager, and found all these old cassette tapes in the basement. And I mean, it was just a flood of material. I kept throwing stuff at Justin, seeing what would stick. And, I think Justin could probably explain his thought on how we went about choosing some of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we basically decided let's try to do stuff appropriate for the era. Band was incredibly prolific early on. Just the sheer amount of stuff that was both pre and I guess mostly pre-broadcaster. It's just unbelievable. There's a lot of great songs that I had never heard until I got hold of them recently. There's tons of songs that nobody's heard, but I thought it was let's try to do stuff that was around the time of Cattlemen Don't. So stuff that was recorded with the record or practice-based demos, stuff around it. And then I think a couple of the songs are a little earlier, but they were in the same studio. So it's kind of like let's try to make everything that fits in this record, or with this record.
Now, you mentioned about having material that's appropriate to the era. Based on how this goes, is there a consideration of doing the same thing with the first record and doing an expanded, with the CD era, where we didn't really think about putting out albums that fit vinyl length. So you've got a lot of records which are just over that vinyl limit, which lend themselves to being released with bonus material. Is that something that you guys have talked about or considered in the future?
Sure. Yeah. This, everything goes okay, and they want me to do it. I don't see why not.
It's funny you mentioned the appropriate for CDs and stuff and not vinyl, because I did listen to that other Triple Fast, podcast you guys did, and you guys talked about that, about songs that are just so long. Your last song has to be like 10 minutes long back when you were on CD. Mm-hmm. And now you have to think about those things.
With a hidden track.
Hidden track. Yeah.
Yeah, hidden tracks too. Yeah.
Is there any hidden tracks? That was
we didn't have a hidden track.
Like 18 songs with a 10-minute long last song and a hidden track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those little 1 second songs. Yeah.
As opposed to the albums from the 70s that were 35 minutes.
Right.
So I got a question. So Brian, I think you said it's been about 3 years since you started building up the Instagram, the social media stuff. Was that kind of when Triple Fast, did you let go of Triple Fast for a long time, and something a couple years ago kind of brought you back into it?
Well, yeah, I left Local H 6-7 years ago now. I kind of lost track, and I think maybe I was trying to fill a void. It's like being out of music for that long. I mean, I was still around it because I work with bands, but as far as being a part of a band, after I left Local H, I was happy and everything was fine. But then I think, I kind of started wanting to do something again. I kind of had this feeling like I got to be a part of something again. So yeah, I would think that probably has a lot to do with it.
Because in that first episode, I talked about you guys covering Sparkle Horse, and I said on that episode, if anybody's got a copy, I know one's got to exist out there. And then sure enough, you posted it on SoundCloud. Maybe
that was after I heard that episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
The magic of the internet, right?
Yep.
Speaking of Sparkle Horse, there's a box set coming out.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks great. It looks awesome. I have one on order.
Nice.
There's a lot of box sets that all want my money, and I don't have money for all of. There's a gang of 4 box set coming out soon, and yeah. So, what's the process with regards to the actually getting the music? Does Deep Elm have rights, or is that expired at a certain point? Did you guys own the masters?
That expired a long time ago.
Okay.
Basically, since we weren't really doing anything, it was just. Wes told John over at Deep Elm, just keep selling it, and honestly, I think it's probably been 5 years that Deep Elm had this thing where you could just pay what you want. So for a penny, you could get the Triple Fast Action record if you wanted. I mean, or you could pay $10. So it was kind of like, it's not like it was making money at the time. It was just kind of sitting. It was a piece of his catalog, digital catalog at that point. And it was just a matter of a phone call. I just called him up, and he lives in Hawaii now. So I I just said, basically we want to get this record out on vinyl. And he said, okay, I'll start taking everything down. It was easy.
I imagine that probably is not the same with Capitol for broadcaster.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Kevin's the only one with a contract.
Oh, really?
I do have the contract.
Okay. Would you like to break it out and read it for us? Or no?
It is a novel. It's a very thick contract.
Oh, I'd imagine.
Only about 45 pages.
Yeah.
And I think, seeing as how so many other bands do that nowadays, reissues, I don't think it would be that difficult to do that. Wes works at a management company out on the East Coast, and he has a lot of contacts still over at Capitol. So I think it would just be a phone call for him just to call him up and say, hey, can we do this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems to have loosened up. The only thing that seems to be a problem is the people who lost their masters in that big fire.
Yeah. We still have all the DATs. We have probably 10 or 15 mixes of every single song on that record. Because that's how we used to do it. Remember that, Kev?
Yes.
Wow. That is not how Bruce Springsteen did his new records.
Vocal down, bass up, bass down. Is nuts.
You anticipated this, needing it 25 years later.
Yeah.
Is that
Should I bring our other guest in?
Sure.
We're talking about that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's. I think he's probably expecting my text, so we'll see if he pops in.
Is some of, and I don't understand the Spotify world, the streaming world, but is some of this why that No Triple Fast stuff is on Spotify?
It was, I think, and then Deep Elm pulled it when I asked them to.
Okay.
Because we knew we were going to have a new home, and you can't really do that with two different labels. It would get so messed up with rights and legally, just everything. So he pulled it all down so that we could move forward with somebody else.
Well, it'll get back up soon.
With bonus material.
With
Nice.
bonus material, yeah.
Oh, so you are going to distribute the digital version too, Justin?
Yep.
Okay.
It'll all be out there.
Cool.
Good, because I've got some playlists I need to add it to.
How much vinyl is this? Because are you putting everything? So you share with us 23 tracks? Is that all going to be in the vinyl release? And how many discs does that end up being? Okay.
Yeah, it'll be a nice gatefold, and it'll be on some sort of colored vinyl to be determined. It'll be cool.
It looks really nice. It's a really nice package. Mark Skillicorn did a great job.
Awesome.
His current job is over at Wax Tracks. Him and Julia Nash run all that stuff, and he does all the artwork for Wax Tracks. For years, he was doing art under the name Supercorn, a bunch of concert poster stuff around Chicago.
Were you able to? I know when bands do reissues, they often will include as an opportunity to expand their artwork, sort of a retrospective of pictures or set lists, whatever memorabilia, visual memorabilia. Did you guys utilize that approach at all with regards to the reissue?
Yeah, there's photos in there, old photos. Do we want to talk about liner notes, Justin?
Up to you.
Scott Lucas wrote the liner notes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Scott played with us. When did he start, Kev?
What was that? 97?
Uh-oh.
Is that right?
Chip with the vision.
There you go.
Chip with the evidence there.
Rock shop, nice.
Okay, cool. So I've got some notes. I'm trying to figure out where is it? What did we determine? Because was he was on that Veruca Salt tour that we did in '97,
Mm-hmm.
and we were trying to figure out a date on that. Maybe Chip knows.
I don't know.
It would have been Fig Dish, Triple Fast, and Veruca Salt. I think it was probably maybe October or November of '97. And that was right after Ronnie left the band. So Scott hopped in, started playing with us when he had some downtime from Local H. And so.
Is this between records or after this?
Between his records. Cattlemen Don't had already been recorded, and we were about to release it when Scott joined.
But Scott wasn't the only touring guitarist, right? I mean, I saw Blake,
No,
Sean,
we had a whole laundry list of people.
Sean,
Wright.
Randy, Randy was a drummer. Randy Morris.
Oh yeah, that was
Made to Fade. Yeah.
So we had Sean Rice for a while. We had Alex from Muchacha, Blake Smith from Fig Dish. Anybody else, Kev?
I think that's it.
Yeah. And then Ronnie came back for our last show at Metro. And then, oh, there you go.
Tim, Chip
And,
popping out.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
And
Dang.
all of our touring second guitar people came out at the end of that set and sat in with us during Superstar. Everybody came out. That was fun. Bittersweet.
No better way to go out though.
Yeah.
I think you guys played every song, at least from the first two, from the records, and then some B-side stuff.
Yeah.
It was, you didn't leave anybody wanting to hear that one song, right?
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about the creation of this record in the first place. Like timeline wise, this is pretty close. Within a year or so, the first record. Sort of what's the path from the first record to this one, and then how do you decide where you're going to record, who's going to produce it, sort of all that?
Well, I think, and Kevin can stop me, but I think the obvious choice for us as far as producers was John Agnello, because he saved the previous record. Because we, on Broadcaster, we started it with one guy, Don Fleming, and we ended up taking it over to John to finish it. All the music was on tape, but then during the mix down, it wasn't happening. So John had to do some tricks to fix it, and he did such a great job, and he was such a cool guy that we were like, you're the obvious choice for the second record.
John is the fifth Beatle.
What does he bring? Especially that's interesting that he came in on the first record after it had been recorded. Like what did he bring specifically that was missing?
He fixed everything. The drums were originally recorded in a room that was probably 10 feet by 7 feet or 8 feet with a really low ceiling. And it sounded like cardboard boxes. And so what he had to do is when Wes and him went in to fix this record, Broadcaster, he had to run, and I think he did the same thing with the bass. Is that correct? He had to run the bass through an Ampeg, Kevin?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So he took the tracks and he ran them into a live room. Like, so for the drums, he used this big room and he put a giant speaker with a snare drum in front of it and mic'd the snare drum to get the actual rattle of the snare, because that didn't exist in the first.
Wow.
There was a lot of things wrong with it.
That's super cool.
So John came up with all these different tricks and helped save that record. Now, the other thing is that record was held by Capitol for so long that by the time it came out, we wanted to start working on another record already. It was already so old to us.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I mean, that record came out in 96, but it should have come out in 95.
We talked about
Why were
that.
why were they holding it?
We talked about that in episode 5. It was because because a little band called the Beatles were reissuing all their stuff on
Oh, that's right.
Right. So it got pushed back. And you know, we still continued and went on and did things, but I think we felt like the ship took off without us. Everybody else had already put their records out in Chicago, all the other bands we knew. And they were all taken off, and we were kind of felt like, although we were signed in that same frenzy of signing, we were the last ones to come out. And I think it felt like it was already over at that point, you know?
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, because 96 is pretty late in terms of when you think about when major releases were happening and what bands were still around by that point. I mean, Nirvana's done. That's 2 years. Soundgarden's putting out their last record at that point. And you've got a lot of that's when you start to get into the weird, like one-hit wonder almost bands of that are sort of like quirky bands in like 96 and 97, and then it goes new metal after that.
Right.
Did you guys record for Deep Elm, or did you shop it and Deep Elm picked it up?
You want to take it, Kev?
Yeah, we didn't record it for Deep Elm at all. I think we just were doing it for ourselves, and we're just going to see what would come of it. But luckily, we did hook up with Deep Elm, and they kind of took the ball and ran with it.
Yeah, so we after us leaving Capitol and not having a home, our manager basically said that he would fund a new record because we had no money. We didn't know how we were going to make something. So he funded the Cattlemen Don't record so that we could shop it. And nobody was really biting. You know, at that point, I think we were just too tainted, probably, after leaving Capitol. And the album, it had Broadcaster done something, like some real numbers, I think we probably would have had some more interest. But so we were kind of on our own. And then Deep Elm came along, John Such, and said that he would do it. And, you know, back then it was just CD. It was no vinyl or anything. So he was doing everything out of his little New York flat somewhere down, I think he was like on the Lower West Side or something, as I recall. So
Where was the recording for this done?
in Chicago and in Hoboken,
Yeah,
New Jersey.
Hmm.
Water Music.
it
in
is.
Hoboken?
Yeah, Water Music. Great
Really
studio.
cool. Yeah, they moved though. They had to move. Yeah, number of years ago, I think, like 4 years ago, I think, because of development and stuff. So they had to move. But so we started at Water Music and did all the basic tracks there, and then we moved to Chicago to Soundworks. Soundworks was a studio. Originally, the original location is where Kerry Brown started doing all like the Smashing Pumpkins demos, and the band Catherine recorded out of there. He was actually the drummer of Catherine. I'm sure there's 100 bands that recorded out of there, but I can't think of any right now other than those two. But we did, and then they ended up moving to a much larger space, and that's where we did the rest of Cattlemen Don't. We took it there and did overdubs and vocals, and I remember doing drum tracks there, but I don't know why. Maybe I was overdubbing drums, Kev.
I think so. Yeah.
Like I was just kind of layering stuff there.
Yeah.
But
So say you definitely fixed the drum problem because on this record the drums
Oh,
sound
this
huge.
record never had any problems.
Yeah.
Cattlemen Don't was just, it felt right. Everything was, we already knew what not to do at that point.
Hmm.
John Agnello had, taken over and kind of, he knew how to direct us. I did all of my drums in one take, except for one song. I do
Wow.
remember that, and I was pretty proud of myself on that. I think we were just really prepared. Whereas Broadcaster, I think we were over prepared. I think this one it was just right. We weren't overthinking too much. We didn't have 30 songs to choose from, whereas what we had with Broadcaster, we had to whittle down from 30 songs. This one, it was I don't know how many songs total. What is it with the 3 bonus tracks from that session?
It's 16 and the intro track.
Yeah, so 16 songs, and that's all we planned on recording for this one. So we did record 17, but the 17th song never got finished, and that, I don't know if anybody's ever going to hear that. It's there's no vocals on it, but none of us remember recording it. John remembers recording it, but we don't. So anyways,
How do you guys prep for this record? Do you do extensive demoing? What's that process look like before you go in, and especially since you're you don't have an advance, you use your manager's money to go in and cut the record.
The Capitol deal, they bought us a mixing board that we put in our practice space, and where we rehearsed was Smashing Pumpkins' old rehearsal spot. So basically, it was like, I think 2 or 3 rooms in this one larger room, and it was like a little studio room and a storage room and then a live room. And like Kevin would sleep there and just write stuff all the time. Same thing with Wes. They would just hang out there all the time.
Great spot. Great practice space. Is Local H still there?
No, they got kicked out.
Oh,
It's gone. They're ripping that thing down, and they're going to build condos.
wow.
It was over by Reckless on Broadway, and it was a parking structure, and it in the back on the main floor there was just this little big storage room, and it sucked. There was no heat, so you'd freeze out in the wintertime, and it'd be so hot and humid in the summer. Really great for musical instruments, and but that's where we called home for a long time. I mean, we just basically lived there. We all had beds at apartments, but I mean, that was the thing about Triple Fast. We were always writing, we were always rehearsing. It was, if we weren't on tour, we were in the practice space just working.
I'm going to play the Tim role here. So Tim, Jay, and Justin, did you guys know about this record when it came out?
No.
Right when it came out, no. A little bit after is when I first heard it. And unfortunately, I was too young to see. I think I saw you guys once. When you guys broke up, I was only 17. So any 18 or 21 and up shows were certainly out. I remember the same thing with Fig Dish. I think I only saw them once. Despite being a fan of the band, but they would just play 21 and over all the time.
I think somewhere in this stack back here is I have a Silent Partner burned copy of Cattlemen Don't that the photocopied just tracklist cover, but Wes must have sent it, or Dave Fry was your manager.
Yep, Dave Fry.
Somebody, one of those two, I'm sure, sent it to me.
Cool.
Jay, we saw them live at Buzzard Fest in Cleveland at the amphitheater. Do you remember going to that?
No.
In '96, they played the side stage. It was, the main stage was like Candlebox 311, No Doubt, the Nixons, Holy Barbarians, and Tragically Hip, and then the side stage was, along with Triple Fast Action, was Berlin
And
and
Poe. Was Poe
the
on
ref-
that show?
Poe, the Refreshments, and the Refreshments got mud thrown at them, and they were off in like 3 songs because it had rained the previous day. So, and they decided to antagonize the people in the pit in front of them, and they all started throwing mud, and they completely caked the instruments of the Refreshments.
Nice.
Um,
Were the Refreshments from other bands?
they were a band from Arizona, and it's Roger Klein, who has now like a band called like Roger Klein and the something, which I don't remember.
Peacemakers.
Peacemakers.
Right?
Yeah.
But they weren't a super group.
No.
Oh, okay.
Didn't they do like the King of the Hill song? They did. Didn't
Yep.
they do like okay, the King of the Hill theme song?
I believe so, yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Well,
I saw that same show with Candlebox, but I saw it at Polaris Amphitheater.
yeah, if Candlebox were doing it, I wonder if that was the tour we did with Candlebox. I wonder if we were out on tour with them.
You know, I want to say that was earlier. I could be wrong.
Because we toured with them on the Lucy tour.
Yeah.
Is John trying to call in? Because I'm getting a beeping sound, but I'm not seeing him show up. It's weird. I've never heard this sound before, and it sounds like somebody's like ringing the doorbell. But there's nobody there. It's a very odd thing that is confusing me.
Yeah, he's not texting me. So
Okay.
I don't know.
Maybe my computer's just gonna blow up. I don't know.
Refreshments did do the King of the Hill. I just looked it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
That probably pays a couple bucks.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's not bad. We were in the Trojan War, the movie. Not personally, but a couple of our songs. He said that he's here.
See, I don't see him. Like it should say all participants, or he should show up. I can hear him
he's done this
dialing.
a million times, so I'm assuming he knows what to do.
That's so weird. Let's see. Maybe I am doing something wrong in my settings, but
So I got a question for Justin. So I'm not familiar with your label. Is it what kind of bands do you put out?
I mean, it's kind of a mix. I'd say leaning heavily towards the punk and indie side of things. Been doing it for 20 years. Started with my own bands back in the early thousands, and then sort of kind of branched out to friends, and then friends of friends, and sort of kind of all over the place. But mostly Midwest stuff, Milwaukee bands, Chicago bands, Detroit bands, kind of all over.
Is this the first reissue you've done?
Yes, I think this is the first. I did one for a band called Boys Night Out, who were on Ferret. They'd been friends, like I knew them at the time, and that was on a different label, so it was a little easier to navigate. But yeah, this is the first like record I remember from the 90s type thing. Yeah, this is the first full-fledged reissue. Hopefully not the last. I hope to do some other ones.
So I heard you talk about Fig Dish. So I'd be happy to have Fig Dish on vinyl if that ever comes around.
Yeah.
Well, look who's here.
Hey,
Hey, there he is.
Hey.
hey guys.
Hey, John.
I'm sorry I'm late. We had friends over for dinner, socially distancing out in the back, and I grilled a bunch of stuff, but they just left, so I'm a little late.
No
Good
worries.
to see you, buddy.
How's everybody doing?
Good. Good.
Great. Thanks for coming on the show. Jay and I have been, we've talked about so many records that you have been involved with over the years. It's great to finally have you on to talk about this record, especially since there's so much to talk about with the reissue and everything. So thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
So we were just talking not too long ago about your history with the band and bailing out the first record to get that released, and then also working on this record. And Jay and I are very fascinated by the production side of things, simply because it's such a sort of mystical, magical world with regards to what producers do and what they are alleged to do. And Scott or Brian mentioned about you coming in and working to sort of save the drum sound on Broadcaster.
Right.
And can you talk a little bit about when you are in that situation where somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, this isn't working out. Can you help us make this sound good?" Do you have a certain like set of ideas going in? Like, I've done this before. I have sort of tricks, not necessarily tricks, but ideas of what we can do to fix this, or is every job sort of completely new and figuring it out from the start?
Was it possible you could have said, "Sorry guys, I can't help fix this"?
No, never, never that. The funny thing was with that record. So the producer Don Fleming of that record, I was friends with, and I had done Screaming Trees records with, and when they approached me about mixing it, when I heard the roughs, I was like so into the band. And I love the energy, and I love the songs, and it was really so right in my wheelhouse of what I was liking. And honestly, if I didn't work on the record, I would just like it as a fan. So quite frankly, no, when they sent me that record, yeah, I kind of just did what I did. And, I didn't really think about, it wasn't like saving the record. I was just like, oh yeah, this is great. I can do, guitars panned left and right and beef up the drums and just do my parallel compression stuff. I mean, it wasn't a thing where, it was just a thing where it was just natural. I really, honestly, from working with the Screaming Trees and Dinosaur Jr. and bands like that and Buffalo Tom, I mean, they were just right in my wheelhouse of just what I liked. And yeah, it really felt easy. Brian, did you not feel that? I mean, we didn't really struggle much with the mixing. I just mixed the songs and I felt like it sounded great. The record was already great. It just wasn't mixed, I guess, as it could have been, I mean, I hate to say that because I never like, being negative with guys who are also making records, because I feel like we're all like in this together. You know what I mean? And I don't know what happened with Broadcaster, but no, I didn't really, I don't feel like I saved it. I feel like I just gave it a different take that suited the record right. You know what I mean? And I do feel like, yeah, when we were done, it was great. And I just remember, I think at one point I talked to Brad Wood and he had said to me something like, "Oh, you're one of those guitar on the left, guitar on the right guys." And I was like, yeah, that's what I love stereo. It wasn't like it was bad. I was like, I like when things are pan full. And I think that's what we did with their record, where the guitars were like pumping on left and right. And then Brian was like pumping in the middle. And then the bass, Kevin was pumping in the middle, and the vocals were kind of on top. So I feel like it was for me, it was just a natural thing. I just did what I thought was good. Honestly, I just have a sense of like what I feel like. It's like I'm trying to make records that I liked as a kid, and when I listened to headphones as a kid in like 1940 or whatever, whatever it was, like 1970. But when I'd listen, when I'd be in my parents' basement getting high listening to records and I put on my headphones, like I love those records and I try to make those records even today, but different, obviously. So
did any of these songs in particular kind of take on a new life in the studio? Like I'm thinking of like Sent Them Straight with the horns in there, and
now you're talking about Cattlemen, right?
Yeah, like so as you approach this next record and you've sort of a blank slate to work with, did any of these songs sort of develop more through the studio process?
I mean, yeah, some of them did. I feel like we went in wanting to make a really noisy, brash record, but we also wanted to make a dynamic record where not every song sounded alike. But the guys were really into like in your face, big guitars, feedback, which once again, I was fine with. But honestly, I always like, and then when the guys were talking to me about the reissue and I went back and listened to the record, honestly, I like totally came back to Heroes. And that song has always just been a total, for me, like an anthem. And I love that song from the minute we recorded it. And I just, listening back to it again, I get chicken skin when I listen to it. Like I get that skin thing, which doesn't happen a lot. But that song to me could be an anthem for any decade from 90 on, you know? It's just such a great song. And I mean, I love Set Them Straight, and I love the horns. Like we did really good on a lot of that stuff. I really was proud of the record we made, and given the circumstances where the band was now not on Capitol, and they were doing it themselves, and we just wanted to make a kick-ass record to tell everybody, fuck this, these guys are great. You know, like we really had a fucking, not attitude, but you know what I mean? It was just a thing where like, we have to make a record that's in your face. And I was really proud that we did it. And honestly, A Pure was another song that I was so psyched that it was just so slamming and it was so aggressive, but yet it had such great hooks. You know what I mean? It was such a hooky song, but yet it was also like just so aggressive. And I was just it was just fun. You know, Brian, just say if I'm wrong, but I just remember going into the studio and we were just like, we gave zero fucks and we just was like, let's just fucking make this as slamming as we can.
Yeah,
right?
And I had mentioned that it was like the first record that I had done that I did the whole record in one take each, except I think Cattlemen Don't, the song was the only one I messed up because you made me listen to a click track because we had to do some weird keyboard thing in there or something.
Right.
But it was, I mean, a much better experience for us, I think. And, you know, the studio, Water music,
yeah,
amazing studio to work with, and like, you know, that was like your second home, as I recall. So it was good.
So did you cut all of the basic tracks live together, the bass drums, rhythm, guitar? Is that how it worked?
Yeah, I mean, we set up 2 guitars, bass and drums in the room, but the room was like a really huge, and the drum room was fantastic. And then we had isolation booths for the amps, but everybody could just be around Brian and just play, and everybody had headphones on, and you know, everybody heard all the instruments, but it was just a beautiful sounding room. I'm so pissed, you know, 4 years ago when that place closed because of mismanagement. And it was just so sad because it was such a great place and the band could stay there. And I lived like right down the road. Well, actually, when we were doing the record, I lived in Manhattan, but in the zeros, I lived in Jersey City, which was, you know, a mile and a half away. And we could just go out at the end of the night and just, you know, hang out and then, you know, come back the next day. It was a really wonderful working environment. But you know, you know, and I think we all we kind of locked in, like just on an agreement of music level. Like we were just so all agreed that this is the record we were going to make.
Well,
like,
I think Kevin said it right, where he felt, and as we all did, that you were like an extension band member. It just felt perfect. It felt right. Everything.
I don't remember ever having like an ish where it was like, oh, producer wants this, band wants that. We were just all equals, you know, and we all just like did the same. We all wanted the same thing, you know. But I loved like I said, the guitar guys wanted to bring the noise. And is that you, Bella? Oh, okay, sorry. We have friends over. But it was like, let's bring the noise. Like when about 2 months ago, when we were talking about the whole reissue of the thing, I went back and listened to the record from beginning to end. And it brought me back to like how we wanted it to be in your face, abrasive, but also have dynamic and just be like loud, but not loud, but the loud stuff gnarly. And I fucking love it. I mean, I just was so excited to help these guys do it. And quite frankly, I loved mixing Broadcaster, and I was like, I would love to work with these guys. Like, this is a band I fucking love. And then when they asked me to do the next record, I was so happy that they wanted me to fucking do it. It was like so great.
This is a record I listen to this record multiple times every year. I mean, it's always in rotation. But the Theremin and If, was that something that you guys came in with that, or did you guys add that in to the song?
Brian, whose idea was that?
God, the Theremin story. All right. So we were in London, and Wes found this little guitar pedal that had a wire sticking out of it, and they rigged it up to be a theremin. And Kevin, was it just an on and off, or was there a knob?
No, I think it was just an on and off thing. It just did one function. You just turned it on and it started going.
And I don't know if it was written in the practice space with the theremin idea, how that came up.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I actually don't remember.
But in the studio, each person got a chance to do a theremin solo. And everybody liked my theremin solo the best. And so that one made it on the record. But then the theremin broke. Do you remember this, John?
No, I don't.
You don't remember the theremin breaking?
I know nothing about the theremin breaking.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, John. Good to see you, brother.
So Kevin, I've talked to Brian a bunch over the last, he moved to Jersey City when I lived there. I haven't talked to you forever.
No, it's not since Cattlemen, probably.
So good to see you, man.
Good to see you, brother.
I was just talking to my wife tonight about when Brian lived in Jersey City. And we're like, you remember, because, we have seen Brian like multiple times over the last 10 years, or I have at least, but she has too. But, he lived like a mile from us in Jersey City. And it was fantastic. It was oh yeah, Brian's living in Jersey City. Let's hang out. It was
like
so
we'd run into each other, you coming out of the sushi place and me and my wife going in or something, Yeah.
So good.
What are you drinking, John?
I'm drinking rosé. So we had some friends over, and I sous vide some pork, and then we made some food, and then they just left. And I basically started drinking rosé at I guess 2 or 3 hours ago.
I'm drinking Bush beer.
Nice.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
So I noticed on you mentioned that you didn't use a click, right, for the whole record except one song, and it stood out to me. And I think it's what song is it? Euro Girl, where you're clearly speeding the song up.
Right.
That's intentional.
Yeah, as I reviewed the record, I was like, they're not using a click on this record. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So for those people listening who don't know what difference that makes, you can't do a technique like that if you've got a
now you have to program it. If you're recording in Pro Tools, if you use a click, you have to program it so it speeds up at a certain point. But once again, I'm a 61-year-old guy, so I was making records in the 80s and 90s where we didn't really use a click that much. And these guys were great because they didn't need it. And quite frankly, there's still people that I work with who, for example, Steve Shelley from Sonic Youth, he doesn't play to a click, but if I tell him to speed up on the chorus, he'll do it. So I love the fact that I don't have to do it. But I will say I also use it. And my favorite thing is in Pro Tools, I don't really use a click in Pro Tools. I use a click drum machine next to me, so I can sit and speed it up right before the, like I'll do the thing where I'll speed up the click track before the chorus to make the band play faster. But these guys, it was perfect. They didn't need to use it. And Brian was able to just like, if Brian knew, okay, chorus goes faster, he did it. But then
Wes and I had been playing together since junior high school. We were always in bands together. So it was, as far as a package goes, we knew each other so well going into everything. Every band we were in, it was just kind of like a package deal almost. And I think that helped a lot, where Wes would write these songs. And I mean, I guess it was just second nature for us to have all that down.
It's great. It was fantastic.
One of the things
tell you guys the funniest non-click story for me is the Dinosaur Jr. song "Feel the Pain," where I don't know if you guys should go back and listen to it, but it starts at like a certain tempo and ends like 30 BPM faster.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the way he played it. But the thing is, it sounds good and it's natural. So my thing is like, with certain artists, you don't need a click. With the triple fast guys, with Brian, we didn't need a click. He knew how to navigate the tempos perfectly. And if I hit the talk back and said, all right, the chorus is maybe a little too fast, he would just come back, and just, it would be fine. But it wasn't a thing where you had people who needed the click to know what the tempo was. I mean, these guys felt the tempo when it was right or when it wasn't right. So yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, it comes through. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and by the way, the record feels so good because there's not a click. That's the reason why it feels so good. It feels natural.
When I was trying to listen to it with a little more recently, knowing I was going to do this with a little more critical ear than a fan ear, like Euro Girl, I was trying to think, do you know the Silver Sun pickup song "Lazy Eye"?
Mm-hmm.
I don't, but I know I like them. I do
I feel like the tempo, like "Lazy Eye," kind of starts and then it kind of builds and builds and builds and kind of like hits this, like in Euro Girl, kind of like that explosion sound, like right kind of in the middle of the song where it kind of goes. That's the closest I can compare to. Like I noticed the differences or the similarities today when I was listening to Euro Girl.
Well, Jay, we just talked about the Mark Lanigan album, "Whiskey for the Holy Ghost," and there's a song on there where he increases the tempo. It's this like Baracho? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great technique because it builds the volume of the song and the speed so it gets more intense and more intense and more intense. That's a hard thing to pull off though, because I've seen that in the studio and it's not it doesn't always work.
You've heard bad bands try to do it and it doesn't work. You have to be really skilled to pull it off.
Someday we'll talk about my experience on Whiskey for the Holy Ghost. That's a different podcast.
I heard it, guys. He's going to do another podcast with you.
Well, if you read the Lanigan book, like Step Back and whatever it is, like Sing Loudly, like his chapter on whiskey is insane, and the way he depicts me is totally insane. And I guess part of it is probably true, but I can't, like when I read, I'm like, I don't think that's me, but maybe it was. Like, it's like, oh my God. He's awesome. I love him. But that was a crazy time in history. But anyway, but no, I love it. I mean, and even in Cattlemen Don't, that song just explodes. Like there's a natural explosion of energy that happens with these songs that are so good. And it's just from a band that plays live that has a total inner rhythm and inner tempo, and they know when to ramp it up, and they all do it together. But it's not something you can program, because if you program that in like Pro Tools, it picks up at like the downbeat of the chorus. But with them, they kind of come up naturally into the chorus. It's like with auto tuning. you know, great singers get to the note a certain way. With auto tuning, it makes them go to the note at the beginning and it's not really singing. So I love the fact that those guys had that in them and they knew how to explode into sections. It's really very musical. I mean, it's the kind of thing you can't really replicate. And if you don't know the difference, you don't know the difference. But if you listen to music and you know the difference, it's a fantastic thing. Like, four people playing together, exploding into the chorus just makes it, the energy is so great. It's just wonderful.
Another thing that stood out on this record to me was the amount, I think is it flange that's being used on the guitars?
There's a lot of flange.
There's a lot of flange on this record. A lot. Like this might be the most flange ever put on record.
Probably
Where did
since
that
Yes.
come? Was that part of the demos or was that like something that just worked in the mix or?
I think the demos for this were pretty sparse. I don't think we had the songs and but all the like the studio tricks, we hadn't really gotten there yet. That came when John took the project. So I think Ronnie used did he use a chorus?
Yeah.
I think it was guitar pedals. I think it was like a lot of guitar pedals.
Okay.
Yeah. And but I think Ronnie's main one was a chorus. Wes had the big muff and probably I don't know if he had a flange.
Maybe an electric mistress, because there was a lot. Yeah, there was a lot. I don't think I did it. I think you guys.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of guitar pedals. Those
Right.
guys were very into guitar pedals. I think Wes had a delay pedal and yeah, Wes was really huge into pedals and collecting them.
Was Ronnie, like, did he go into the record full member, like, let's do this thing, or did you guys know that he was recording and then out?
Oh no. Ronnie was always a full-fledged member up until the day he left.
Right.
Which the album had gone out, we had been touring on it, and it's just personal life got in the way, work got in the way. It was at the point, we were talking earlier about like not having capital behind it, no capital money anymore.
Yeah.
It was, and so we all had jobs when we went home. Whereas before it was like we lived off of tour support and that sort of thing. So yeah, it just life got in the way for Ronnie.
What was
Yeah,
the
but
duration to make the record? How long did it take to make the record, Cattlemen Don't?
Shit, I want to think, Brian, you'll check me, or Kevin, you'll check me on this. But I think we recorded it for like 2 weeks at Water Music. Did we not do overdubs in Chicago for a couple of weeks?
Yes.
And then we mixed it for maybe a week or two back in New Jersey.
Yeah, and that was you and
So
Wes.
I would guess it was like a 5-week record.
Okay.
Which, by the way, back then was, actually back then it was probably short. It was, because back then we were making like 8-week records. But I think you guys were well prepared. It wasn't like we cut corners. We had plenty of time. How fun was the time in Chicago?
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I've never had so much fun going someplace else to do overdubs than with these guys in Chicago. I mean, we worked very hard.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, like, wasn't that Whirly Ball?
Whirly Ball.
The coldest winter I had ever experienced in my life.
Yeah. And you had an apartment we got you over on, I think it was on Augusta.
Right.
And there was like a little old man bar that we would always go to right after each session when we dropped you off.
Yeah.
It was a fun time.
We had so much fun. That's the other thing I got to say about that record is we had so much fun. We all just had a great time, but we also worked really hard. It wasn't just like, oh, party. We worked really hard, but when we weren't working, we would go out and just have a blast. And it was hard work. I mean, we really put in the hours, but I think we all got along so great. And then at the end of the night, it was like on a certain record, you'd be like, at the end of the night, all right, I want to go home. But like, we were like, let's hang out. Like we all just were so, like you said, we were all just part of the unit. We were a together unit of people. It was so great. Yeah, I fucking loved it. I mean, it was such a great record to work on.
I know the guitarists aren't here, but the guitar tone on this record is fantastic. And we talk about a lot of times records having a timeless sound, and so many records get stamped because of production or because of guitar tones or drum sounds, that they get stamped to a particular time period, whether it's like too much reverb or what have you. But the guitars on this record sound, like I think you said earlier, like enormous and dirty, but also there's like it when you crank this, it doesn't like break down.
Right.
Whereas, you know, some records you crank them and it just becomes overwhelming.
Right.
And do you remember what was the setup with regards to the guitars in terms of were you guys switching with different cabinets and setups, or was it a pretty consistent setup for the most of the record?
I don't remember what amps those guys used. Like my thing traditionally is I capture very much 2 mics on the amp in your face. I don't do room mics. And this is like with them and Dino and Screaming Trees or whatever, Sonic Youth. Like my thing is I'm not making the sound. You know what I mean? I'm putting a U87, a really great condenser mic, and then either a 421 or a 57 next to it. So they're like one big mic. And I mix to taste. I don't do any room mics. And my thing is I just capture the immediate sound, because my feeling is I want both mics on the grill so that when I record them and I play them back, they're jumping out of the speaker. There's no air. It's the immediate sound of the amp. So that's what I did on their amps. I mean, they provided the effects, the pedals, the distortion. I don't remember what they did. I just don't. I mean, I don't remember what Thurston or Jay did on their records. They just did their thing. But my thing is more like just keeping it super in your face. Like I want as little air as possible between, from the hit of the guitar to the sound. So that's what I did. I mean, but like we talked about previously with like the phasing and the flanging. I mean, those guys loved using pedals. I mean, they made, if you listen to the record, there's just crazy flanging tones. And I don't know, maybe do you guys know, did Wes or Ronnie have like an electric mistress?
Well, here, I got this note here that I remember posting because I had to talk to Wes and Ronnie about some of their gear for some gearhead. And they told me that they used JCM 800 100-watt heads.
Yeah, so those are.
Wes had his rewired for different ohms for some reason. And Wes used an MXR flanger, an MXR chorus, a green Russian Big Muff, and a mini theremin. And then Ronnie had a Big Muff Pi, flanger EQ, and a boost. That's basically
there you go. So
what they got.
But my thing is literally so much creating the sound, capturing it, and just having it be in your face. So, and I've done that traditionally where it's like, I'm not the guy providing all the effects. You know what I mean? I'm the guy just making it try to sound as loud as possible. But those guys came in with guns bursting with like, just, the flanging sounds are all them. I mean, and it's pretty severe, it's pretty great.
In a weird way, it helps the two guitars and the bass.
Oh yeah, it's so good. But like, for example, Pure is such a great, like when Pure starts and it's just like, what the fuck is going on? And then it explodes into the band. It's so good. I think I'm more talking about the breakdown before it goes into the last chorus or something, but whatever. But the point is, it just sounds so great. And I mean, it's just that like gnarly, like modulated guitar.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, they brought the shit. I just tried to capture it like as in your face as possible.
John, are there records? Well, we've got you here. Are there records like with Cattlemen Don't that have not seen I guess a resurgence in terms of vinyl reissues that you would like to see get a second life? You know, they're going to get exposed the second time. Are there any ones that you've worked on? You think, man, people should have really heard this record because it deserves it.
I will say that I work on a lot of records, and I'm really passionate about the records I work on. And I will say that I have worked on records I really, really love, and they haven't just gotten exposed in the way they should have. And I don't blame the record companies. I don't blame the band. It's hard, you know? But yeah, there are a handful of them. I mean, I have, you know, along with Cattlemen Don't, I have a bunch that I'm very passionate about that, you know, I still listen. You know, me and my wife will be sitting on the back porch and we'll listen to a record and we're like, that sucks that like not everybody heard of it. But that's just the nature of what we do. You know, it's a hard scenario because I can only make the records and then I have to hand them off. And, you know,
I was psyched to finally hear Red Cross's Phase Shifter.
Yeah.
Vinyl. That came out but not that long ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome.
No, that's a perfect one. Like we finished that and I love that record and I was so proud of it, you know, and happy that we made that record. But I feel like more people should have heard it, but it's, you know, you don't know. But you know what? You just got to go and, you know, I still to this day, I love them. And there are some like, I'll tell you guys moving forward, I hate to plug records, but this new Clap Your Hands, Say Yeah record that I mixed like last year, it's going to come out in January and I love it and I hope it does well. He's so great. But, you know, once again, I just have no control over, you know, once it's mastered and I hand it over, I don't know, you know, but yeah. So yes, there are a lot of them there. I could name you like 10 of them in the last 20 years that I wish more people would hear, you know?
I think you need to plug, I mean, John, I don't know if you know the premise of the Dig Me Out podcast. I should let the host tell you what it is, but that's digging out those records that no one's ever heard.
Right. The whole premise of our show is we focus on albums of the 90s that people might have missed. And we give them a second life.
But this is albums of those zeros and tens. So I guess call me when
gotcha.
that
that's when we expand we've dabbled a little bit, but we have to find more time in our week for
no, it's fine.
Yeah.
But we're big fans of Phase Shifter, so
yes.
Dude,
there's a little audience.
That's another one, honestly, like with Cattlemen. Honestly, that was another one that we had a lot of fun. I forget the song, but one of the songs opens with us playing the game Pit. I forget the song title, but it's like literally us all playing Pit. And we put a mic up and we recorded us playing this game. It's like, I got two, Pit. And then the song hits. And it was literally just us in the lounge of the studio playing this game. And one of us decided to record it. It wasn't me, but it was so fun. They were like a fun group of guys to like hang out with. That's a really good record.
And this Cattlemen Don't actually reminded me a little bit of that record. Just
very
in your face guitar tones,
very
fuzzy and out of control, but at the heart of it are pop songs with good melodies.
Absolutely. All right. I am going to go only because my wife and two of our friends are still on the deck. To be rude.
Is it cold there yet?
You know, so my wife bought this fucking crazy heat lamp, this mushroom lamp, you know, those tall things. She ordered it on Amazon a week ago. We got it. And I was just like, this is bullshit. And then yesterday we were hanging out and I was like, oh, let me put it together. And so me and my buddy Bill, who's staying with us, this couple put it together, and it's fantastic. So we put it together, and now we're just hanging out on the back porch with this heat lamp, and it like is magical. So it's
Nice.
not that cold. I'm wearing a jacket. This is all you need, and we have the heat lamp.
When COVID's over, I'm gonna visit you and check out your lamp.
Dude, you can visit me whenever you want. It'd be fantastic. By the way, the kids are so great. Like the rocking out stuff is so good.
Yeah, it's fun watching them grow.
Oh my God, you're such a great rock dad, dude. Nobody, like, it's so good. I finally got, so Brian, you'll like this. I finally got my daughter into vinyl,
Oh, right on.
and we did it via like Taylor Swift and like Billie Eilish, but she now sits in the vinyl room and listens to vinyl. It's
Oh,
so,
right on.
I'm so excited.
That's cool.
Yeah.
John, I want to make sure before you leave, Brian, if you haven't already shared it. So, 100 years ago, this is one of those records, and Triple Fast is one of those bands that I've loved since the second I heard. And similar to like Justin here, right? Like I have zero music publishing knowledge, recording knowledge, mixing knowledge, but I thought more people needed to hear Triple Fast. And so I started soliciting bands to do a tribute album.
Great.
I had no idea what to do with it. So I have 15 MP3s that I sent to Brian that I've had on my hard drive for
Wow.
15, 20 years. I'd love to have you hear them sometime. So maybe Brian can pass it on.
Brian will give you my email.
Awesome.
Yes, I would love to hear him. That'd be
Yeah,
great.
it was a fun thing to try to put together. Like I said, I didn't know like Justin, like I had no idea what to do with it. I had the idea, but not the next step. And so they've been sitting on a hard drive for 15 years.
Yeah, I want to hear
Yeah,
more.
I'm sorry about tonight. Like I totally forgot and fucked up because we were entertaining and I was trying to sous vide.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry.
It's all
No
good.
problem. This was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, it was a pleasure seeing you, John.
But I would love to hang with you guys again. And obviously Brian, like, so me and my wife were talking about like last year, October 5th, we spent our anniversary hanging out with Brian side stage with the Cheap Trick guys. And he totally made our anniversary like one of the best anniversaries ever.
You guys are worth it.
Yeah. But anyway, it was fantastic. But thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
All right.
Thanks, John.
Have a good rest of your
seeing
evening.
you.
Kevin, great seeing you.
Thanks.
Is Kevin, yeah, okay. Sorry, I haven't seen you in forever.
I know.
All right. Be good.
All right. Love you, man.
Thanks, John.
Thank
Love
you guys. Bye.
Well, that was fun.
Okay.
So give us a roundup of, there's a lot of extra material in here. We touched on it at the beginning, sort of, what is the extra stuff? Are these demos? Are these complete songs? Kind of just give us an overview of like,
break out your notes.
the
Yeah.
bonus stuff here.
So you got the whole album, which starts with Ronnie's theme, ends with Bearer of Bad News. And then we have 3 outtakes from the Cattlemen Don't sessions, which actually a few of those were available on like some compilations, like some sampler things that Deep Elm did that were just kind of like promotional only type things, I think. And then
It's on Emo Diaries, right? The first
yeah.
one.
Now were those promotional, I think?
No, that was like a full release. I remember buying
it?
that when it came out. Yeah.
Okay.
Somewhere back there.
So then so those songs, I mean, are we telling people names of songs now, or
Don't spoil it all.
Yeah. Go. I mean, whatever.
Okay. So Underwear, All Better Now, and I Want to Know. Those were the outtakes from the actual Cattlemen Don't sessions. Then the last side 4 of this record has 6 songs that have never been commercially released. A few people may have heard probably one of those songs. I think Chip has heard one for sure, a different one than I'm thinking. But we did 2 of those songs at Soundworks before we did Cattlemen Don't, but because they were done in the same studio that we recorded half of Cattlemen Don't, it seemed like it made sense. And those, so we did those 2 songs, and then 4 more songs that we recorded at our practice space. One of which Wes actually played everything on. I think it's the last song on the record is the song Wes wrote it and performed the whole thing all by himself. So I don't know how much more in depth you want me to get. I don't want to ruin any surprises for anybody, but I mean, I could with song titles and all, but
Yeah, they'll be out there.
So we mentioned that this is going live just after the announcement. So where can people go to get the record? What's the plan for the release date where people will actually be able to hold the vinyl in their hand? What are all the logistics involved there?
Sure. So the release date is going to be January 21st of 2021 officially. We're hoping they'll be done by the end of the year, so anybody who pre-orders it can get them before the end of the year. But we don't really know. So we're saying ship dates around the 1st, but it's kind of a crapshoot. Pressing records takes a lot longer currently due to a few industry things. The company that made all the lacquers burned down earlier this year. Maybe it was late last year. So the production is a little bit slower than it used to be. The record will be on sale on the 6th, so by the time this airs, it'll be out, available for pre-order. You can go to forgeagainrecords.com or forgeagainrecords.bandcamp.com also. Yeah, you'll be able to pre-order it. The early copies will come with another bonus that we'll let people hear about soon.
We won't spoil any funds. The fun
yeah,
stuff.
We'll hold on to that one a little bit.
Yeah, that's
yeah, no,
fine.
it'll be you'll be able to get the original record. You'll be able to download it and stream it. I don't think we'll hit this. We're not going to hit the streaming sites until January, but you'll be able to listen to it through Bandcamp, the original record, and then we'll slowly release a couple of the unreleased stuff, and then eventually you'll get the whole thing in January. It'll be everywhere.
Can you talk about the color of the vinyl, or is that under wraps for now?
I think we could talk about it. It'll probably be announced by Friday. I think we were planning to do yellow and pink to match the art.
Cool.
So there'll be 2 options, and then we'll see how it goes, and I think it looks great. The mock-ups or whatever look really good, and I'm stoked. And we're pressing them locally in Chicago. It's a pressing plant called Smash Plastic that opened about 2 years ago. Great plant, really nice guys. It's wonderful working. First of all, just doing stuff domestically, pressing records domestically.
Yeah.
And then, obviously the bonus of being in Chicago, so I can go there and I can watch. I don't know if they'll let me do it now because COVID, but the other records I pressed there, I've gone and watched them, put them through the press and listen to one hot off the press. It's pretty cool.
Kevin should go with you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. We'll let you know when they're on the press, and they're good about doing things quickly for me. They're, again, they try to cater to help you, the smaller labels. They're not looking to press 100,000 Lady Gaga records or whatever. They're pressing small, independent labels, smaller stuff like mine and tons of other labels in the city and around the city.
That's very cool that there's a new plant. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they're kind of popping up.
Yeah,
Jack
cool.
White opened up a huge one in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can make new machines. I remember 10 years ago, I looked into the possibility of trying to start one, and it was just, you have to buy an old press. get to find someone who knows how to run a boiler and knows how to run that old press. And it was just, it's like, all right, never mind. I'm not interested. But now you can buy a brand new one that doesn't use a boiler. You can, it's doable. It's come back enough to the point where it made sense to make those. But there's old machines, all those old ones. And anytime a pressing plant will get wind of another plant closing or another, one going for sale, they would buy it up immediately. So it kind of consolidated to just a handful of plants here in the States.
Cool.
So it's cool to see them spreading out, and hopefully it'll help the turnaround time.
Well, especially for a Chicago band to be able to do with it, a Chicago plant. That's kind of a cool little story.
The Chicago
Sure.
way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do it as local as possible.
Yeah, that's great.
So Justin, you made them agree in order to put the record out that they have to do like a show to promote it, right?
I think I was the only one who did not require that. I mean, as much as I'd like to see it, and I think a lot of people would like to see it, and I will certainly not object if they eventually do it. But, I think it's important, the things people remember about bands are these albums. And I think that's sort of the point of this podcast, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe you never saw this band, but this record really meant something to you. And, a record that you hear now that came out in 1997 might mean a lot to you. There's tons of bands that I think this podcast has helped for sure. I found a lot of stuff that I had never listened to, never gave a chance. And now it's just so easy to find stuff. You just dig through YouTube or Spotify or whatever. It's like in the 90s, if you didn't happen to see Triple Fast Action, you didn't happen to, be at a show they played or, know a band that knew them or see them somewhere. It was a crapshoot whether or not you ever heard that song on the radio. You saw the video on 120 Minutes or on college radio. You just really never knew. And I'm still discovering bands from the 90s that I never heard. And that's sort of actually what led me to your podcast in the first place.
I feel like now would be a good time we got a couple comments over at the Patreon page. Whenever we post an upcoming episode, we let people leave some comments if they want to tell us, they're happy we're doing this record or why you're doing this record. It's terrible. Luckily there was more in the A column than the B column for this episode, but I just want to throw them out there because people were very excited that we were doing this episode. Andrew OC said, "This is simply one of the finest records in my collection, from the rage and aggression we hear in Pure to the gentle sonic builds in the title track and Eurogirl. This album is exciting front to back. So are the B-sides. Even though we've heard great releases from its members since the band broke up, it's a shame we haven't heard any creative output from Wes since. It's incredible it's taken this long to get dug out, but consider me, I'm ready." Willie Dillon said, "Great album, awesome energy and feel. I love the way If starts out slow and somber and then explodes all of a sudden. Great drumming on the album, courtesy of Brian St. Clair. It's a shame that more people don't know about this band." Steven Muzinski said, "I'm so stoked this is getting reviewed. I think this is far superior to Broadcaster, which was already reviewed. Always struck me a little odd that the record came out on Deep Elm, but it's a worthy album nonetheless. There's an exclusive track on one of the Deep Elm Emo Diaries."
Tongue twister.
The Elmo Diaries. Comes is pretty great as well. I think I bought the CD off eBay, having never heard a single note, just because Scott from Local H talked them up. Glad I did. Duck and Run and If are probably my favorite songs, but there's not a skipper on here if you ask me. Dewey Cole said, "Huge fan of this record and just feel bad it took me until 2001 to find it. When Brian joined Local H in 1999, Triple Fast Action got brought up an awful lot on the Local H message boards. Remember them? And eventually all of the H fans became Triple Fast fans. We all loved both albums, but this one in particular, my favorite track, Eurogirl, one of the best build-ups I've ever heard in a rock song, and the payoff to some minutes in is pure bliss." And then he makes a comment about vinyl. And then finally, Kyle Bittner says, "First time listening to this, and I am ashamed for never hearing this band before. It has a great blend of everything I love about the 90s rock, songs that build over time, crunchy loud guitars, dynamic vocals, and range from soft to sweet to loud and aggressive. This will be on regular rotation for some time." So there you have it. Some people who have been listening to this record for a while, and some people have just discovered it and are happy to have done so. So that's the thing that I love about our podcast is that we're always introducing people to great albums that they might have missed. I mean, there were so many albums coming out in the 90s. We're 500 episodes into this, and we have not scratched the surface, literally, of how many records came out in the 90s. So it's always great when folks get hip to something that we've known about for a little while, or some of our other listeners have known about. Jay, Chip, anything else you wanted to cover? Because we're getting into like close to the 2-hour mark here on this, and I don't want to eat up all of Brian and Kevin's and Justin's Sunday evening. There's probably some football to watch that I'm missing right now.
I just want to thank Justin for doing this. This is awesome. I can't wait to.
Yeah.
Well, I'm honored to do it. It's a dream, right? To take those albums that mean a lot to you from way back when and get them out in the world, and hopefully again some new people hear about it. I'm glad that I just happened to see the post. And I was like, shit, I'll do that in a second. I'll sink the money into it and give it a shot. Absolutely.
Yeah, as much as we can, talk about some of these bands and point people to streaming, it's really nice to have somebody putting physical product out that you can actually hold in your hand and buy, and it just makes it more special. And so that's super cool that you're doing this. I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah, me too. Yep. I'm very excited to getting this one in my hands for the first time.
Likewise.
Ditto.
So Justin, just so we're clear, for all the listeners, the pre-orders start on.
It'll be live by the time this is on. So they're going to start on the 6th. This is going to be on the 10th. Yep. So yeah, pre-orders are live. I'm not going to make people wait until the end of January. If the records are in the middle of December, we'll ship them in the middle of December. I mean, I don't want to delay the gratification any longer. It's been 23 plus years. So
excellent.
That'd be a nice Christmas present. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping it'd be really great to be able to get them all out by then, but fingers crossed.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I think this is a good spot for us to wrap up. Thanks so much.
Thank you
to all of you for spending your Sunday evening, and also to John, who left early. Hope he's enjoying his rosé. And Justin, again, the website that they can go to?
ForgeAgainRecords.com, the label site, or through ForgeAgainRecords.bandcamp.com.
Awesome. And want to remind everybody, digmeoutpodcast.com is where you can go to suggest an album. Where you can go to join our Patreon, and it's where you can go to join our weekly newsletter, The Box, to get reviews of new records and our release calendar of all the new stuff coming out in movies, music, and books related to 80s and 90s music. So, for Jay and the gang, we're out. Jay and I will be back next week with another episode of Dig Me Out.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was very
Thank
cool.
you.
We appreciate the support.
Yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
time. It was great.
it was fun to be part of it.
Yeah.
We don't always get to. It doesn't always work out that we get to be part of a re-release. So this was fun to be able to do this.
Right. Usually we're finding out afterwards.
Pleasure seeing you again there, Chip.
Yeah, you guys too.
Been too long.
Yeah. What are you working on, Kevin? Anything new?
Yes, actually, I am. I just put out a record in March, and I'm working on a new one now. So, yep.
A solo record?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. The one in March was that was Home Demon.
It was Home Demons Volume 2. Yeah.
Yeah, I got that one on Bandcamp. So
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Very cool.
I have to make sure that's on the calendar, Jay. I don't know if we covered that one.
I think we did. I think Chip told us about it.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's right.
He's our guy.
Chip's
We
our
know
funnel
somebody.
of information.
Yes.
Yes. All right,
Thanks for
everybody.
supporting, Chip.
What's that?
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Be
Have a
safe.
good
guys.
night.
Yep.
See ya.
See ya.
How do I get out of here?